Six Nations Team of the Week for week number 4, folks. Let's pick 15 players who stood out in this most recent round of the 2025 Six Nations. Go through some of their key stats and standout moments from the week. You guys can let us know your thoughts on who you would have if you would pick in a team of your own. Gonna start with a guy who I've picked several times this Six Nations and still looks just so hard to stop. Louis Biel-Biarré. He is just such a weapon for France. We talked about it in the preview to their matchup against Ireland. What do you do with this guy to stop him putting grubber kicks through and chasing them through for tries? Even if you've got a seemingly decent advantage on him before he put the kick through, he is just very hard to stop. So gets 2 tries in this game. The first one, by his own standards, is a bit of a walk-in. The second one is a Louis Biel-Biarré special. Grubber, infield kick, well placed, puts the hammer down, beats Prendergast to the ball. We've seen him do it to loads of people. This time he did it to Ireland. So 2 tries for him. Finishes with 5 runs and 40 metres. Remembering that his metre count often ends a bit lower because of his tendency just to put the boot to ball almost immediately. A couple of clean breaks, 4 passes, 6 kicks. But in terms of his stats, one that was quite fascinating was his tackle numbers. 8 from 8, which for a winger is actually phenomenal. And 3 dominant tackles, which is more than any other French player at the weekend. So defensive shift from him as well. Does have a turnover conceded, so by no means flawless. But man, he is an absolute weapon. I'm going to put one of the English players into the second row here as well. Ollie Chesham ended up getting man of the match in his game. I think pretty well deserved. The guy was very, very busy. 12 lineouts. One is the top guy at lineout time this week for any of the teams. So very busy at securing that lineout ball for England. And also really busy around the park. Finishes with 8 runs for 58 metres, which for a lock is unusual, to put it mildly. Finishes with a clean break, beats 4 defenders, so very, dynamic around the park, wins a turnover. Tackle count could be a little bit higher. He was 5 from 8. That's, again, not a flawless performance, but an area to improve. But overall, 5 passes and offload. He was just into a bit of everything for England, so yeah, played really well when given a start. Obviously, no George Martin in England for the last couple of games, so Chesham has been looking the business. And we're going to go with another one of the kind of man of the match players, Blair Kinghorn. Despite something of a stomach bug maybe affecting his game a little bit, Blair Kinghorn also bagged a couple of tries. He shows some real power and pace for that first one. Like, you always knew he was that quick, but he was able to kind of get rid of a couple of the Welsh tacklers on his way to the try line, and he finished beating 6. 6 defenders beaten is kind of right up there with the guys this week. He gets a second try as well, where he hits the line at pace from a nice Finn Russell pass. So a couple of tries from him, 96 metres, which for a fullback is not earth-shatteringly high, but it's certainly really good numbers from him. 11 passes, shows the kind of high involvement rates, 4 offloads, so really confident in his distribution. Does have a couple of turnovers conceded, so again, by no means a perfect outing. Lost his lunch on the way, but man, Blair Kinghorn, he is a proper weapon for that Scottish back 3. Another one of the English guys, I'm going to go with Will Stewart at tight head prop. I thought he looked pretty busy, showed a bit of footwork for a prop, which is not something you see every day. We kind of a little bit of the jinky and jiving steps. He beats a couple of defenders. He gets 8 metres from 4 carries, which for a prop is actually a pretty good return because they usually hit a lower metres per carry rate than that. Wins himself a turnover, makes 100% of his tackles, 6 from 6, only concedes the 1 penalty. Gave, at least, was it Brex? He gave him a big don't argue following those steps. So, yeah, quite an outing for Will Stewart. 3 passes as well, so good involvements, pretty solid as a rock, and then a bit of attacking flair as the kind of icing on the cake for him, so very pleasing to see. One of the loosies, I ended up going with one of the French guys in Paul Boudéon. He was, keeping up, I think, the good form that he's been showing throughout this tournament. I think it's the first time I've chucked him in Team of the Week, but hard to deny him. Up against what's a pretty good Irish back row, he still managed to stand out as one of the key performers for the French. A try, where he powers over from close range. Again, it kind of is one of those ones that's easier said than done. How many times have you seen Ireland hold teams out in that kind of range? But not Boudillon from this one. Finishes with 43 metres from 9 carries, which is also a fantastic return against Ireland. Gets himself a clean break, wins a few lineouts with 4, makes 11 from 12 tackles, including a couple of dominant ones. Does concede a couple of penalties, but yeah, a couple of passes. Very busy around the park. And he is a I just want to say a large human who is hard to stop when he wants to bring the ball forward. Another guy who's got kind of good offensive play was Tom Jordan for Scotland in that number 12 jersey. Obviously no Tuipulotu with the Six Nations campaign. He bags himself a couple of tries as well. Really great support line when Scotland had a break down the left wing for the first one. And pouncing on that loose Welsh ball for the second. Good kind of heads-up play. Puts himself in the right position. One of those ones where you just got to chase everything to put the pressure on. Sometimes you get the reward. He gets the reward. Finishes with 5 defenders beaten. A couple of clean breaks. 59 metres from 14 carries. So really good involvements. And plus 14 passes as well. Some guys in the midfield, you see them pretty much truck it up all the time. Or pretty much shovel it all the time. Tom Jordan, a even split of 14 runs and 14 passes, so very good mixed game from him. 7 from 10 tackles. He would like to be a little bit higher, and he's got a penalty conceded as well, but I think overall really positive contribution for the Scots. Now this guy, I feel like had a bit of extra pressure on him from the bench. The only player on the bench for France who was not a forward, Maxime Lucu, who in the past, when given the kind of either the starting role when Dupont was absent in the past, or I don't know, just the chance to come on a bit earlier, sometimes has looked really good and sometimes has not. But this is one of those times where I feel like he showed really what he can do. A bit of extra pressure on with Dupont, obviously going off with what turned out to be a really serious injury, but they didn't slow down with Lucu coming on. They still looked a very dangerous side. He kept the ball moving. He finishes with like 36 passes. And his defensive game was solid. 10 from 10 tackles, his first equal, I think, with Moefana in terms of the French backline players. He couldn't stop Sheehan from close range, but he didn't miss a tackle. He just ran out of ground. I mean, he tackled him, I think, kind of into the goal area, so I couldn't hold him up, but that's a bit of a mismatch anyway. But yeah, solid defensively. Also gets a try assist. He's the one who pops that offload for Boudillon to kind of power over after he's had a little run through a gap himself. So yeah, he attacks the line a couple of times, distributes well, kicks decently well, defends well, and as I said, with the kind of pressure on, he rose to the occasion, which is something pretty admirable. I mean, guess likewise you could say the same with Elliot Daly. Wasn't expecting to play the game in the midfield, but after Ollie Lawrence went off early, he ended up shifting from fullback, and he looked, I mean, Steve Borthwick talked him up as being this kind of attack-minded player, and I think he lived up to Steve Borthwick's billing. He ends up getting a try assist, which is the kick through for Freeman, but also just looked to break the line early on for England, even when he was back at fullback. You know, quite happy to take the ball to the line, not just look for the kick. 41 metres, 8 runs, couple of defenders beaten. That's pleasing from him. 5 from 5 tackles. Sometimes the defensive game is an area that gets criticised of a guy like Elliot Daly. He does concede a couple of penalties, but yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. Justified his spot because he is a guy who gets a bit of stick from fans at times. One of the losing team players I went with was old Jack Morgan. In a rough day at the office for the Welsh at times, he was one of the guys leading from the front. They ended up having a respectable performance in the end, walking away with a couple of losing bonus points, which puts them in the race not to get the wooden spoon this year. 25 from 25 tackles is not the most tackles of this week, but it's bloody close. And the guy who finished above him, because Jack Morgan was second, didn't get 100%. So Jack Morgan, phenomenal defensive shift, and 5 of those tackles are dominant tackles. Plus he wins turnovers. He even bloody puts a kick through after winning a turnover. You could say the kick was a bit agricultural, but it did the job. So yeah, Jack Morgan, proper defensive shift. And on the carry, he's busy. 9 carries, 23 metres. So he is trying to get some ball forward for the Welsh. Does concede a penalty, but I mean, honestly, the guy is a real asset to that Welsh squad, whether he's got 7 or 6 or whatever jersey number on his back. He is really leading from the front. We are getting, even with Jack Morgan, into some of the kind of more difficult to pick positions, by the way. I went with Finn Russell at number 10. Certainly had a bit of competition, but I thought, the goal kicking is the obvious one, but I thought he looked confident around the park. I'm not sure what it is about Scots when there's not a kind of title or historic result on the line. They can play really well, although even in that game, I think they'll be a little bit unhappy with taking the foot off the gas a bit. But he had to go off with a bit of cramp early, but from when he was on the field, he set up a couple of tries. One of them, that just kind of beautiful, just a little delayed ball for Darcy Graham. And then the other one, the great ball where he finds a on-rushing Kinghorn. So both really good. He kicks 10 points. He spoke in the post-match press conference about, the first kick he got was pretty similar to the one that he missed against England. So he can still joke about it, but he got him this week. So he can be a bloody good goal kicker. 10 points from the boot for him. 3 runs, beats a defender, 5 from 6 tackles, doesn't concede turnovers. Drove the Scottish pack around the park, I think, well. And with a Lions tour coming up, putting in a performance like that will certainly give Andy Farrell something to think about. Another one of the locks, I went with Thibaut Flamand from France. Again, he looks very busy around the park again. He makes a bunch of tackles, 12 of them. He misses 3, which is, again, a little bit higher than he'd like, but throwing that big body around, defensively powerful, gets a dominant tackle, wins a turnover, and he's also one of their main line-out guys. He doesn't get anywhere near Chesham's 12, but he gets 4, him and Boudillon sharing most of the line-out duties between those two guys. Also gets his hands on the ball, 6 carries, gets 11 metres, which for a lock, again, it's not Chesham's numbers, but for a normal lock, it's pretty good. Anytime you're getting above a metre a carry for a lock is pleasing. 4 passes. He does concede a penalty, but Flamand, contributions for him, very, very pleasing. Another one that was really tough was the right wing slot because a bunch of guys looked good, but I ended up going with Darcy Graham. Gets 1 try himself, again from that nice Finn Russell pass where he's able to gas and power through, and then he sets up one where he's off his wing. He's able to shift the ball left for Kinghorn, who does the rest of the kind of hard work as well. But yeah, good involvements from Darcy Graham. Defensively, 5 from 6 tackles. Pleasing numbers for a winger, a couple of kicks, 11 runs and 51 metres. So really looking for some work. So as I said, kind of coming off his wing when it needs to happen. Beats a couple of defenders. So yeah, Darcy Graham back in Scottish colours after having a week off. Looked the part. Another one of the props, I went with another one of the French guys, Jean-Baptiste Gros, also solid. I don't know that he did anything kind of super sexy and spectacular like Stewart with the footwork, but very solid from him in that front row for France, the starting front row anyway, from what minutes they get. 9 from 9 tackles, 100% defensively solid. He gets his hand on the ball for at least 1 pass in the game, and he gets a few carries under his belt. He has 5 of them for 8 metres, which again is above that kind of metre per carry that props and second rowers usually get. So he is getting a bit of go forward when he got the ball. Solid at scrum time, only concedes the 1 penalty. Jean-Baptiste Gros had a good one. I got Dan Sheehan as the hooker this week. There's a little bit of suspicion going to this one that the Irish guys might have issues at line-out time. Didn't prove to be one of the failings of the Irish in that game because their line-out operated at 94%. He made 4 from 4 tackles, which is not the hugest amount, but he had a dominant one and made them all. He also scored a try where he peeled off for that ball to actually put Ireland in front, where they were starting to look like they might go on and win the game. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. But didn't concede any penalties, made his tackles, got his try, had his carries. So, yeah, not the kind of vintage Dan Sheehan where he gets himself line breaks and whatnot, but I thought he looked really good. And then one more loose forward, I ended up going with an Italian guy in Ross Vincent. Scored a bit of a wonder try with that gas of his. I mean, the entire starting Italian forwards pack did not get as many metres as Vincent got, and Vincent got most of them with his try. He finished with 50. They were not getting much penetration against the English pack, but Vincent, 50 metres. He also got 2 defenders beaten. Only Fischetti was able to break any other tackles from the starting Italian forward pack. I mean, Zuliani came off the bench and got a bunch, but Vincent was one of the only guys to get real penetration against England. So credit to him for being that guy. You need that X factor sometimes to get you over the line. And he did it to grab himself a great try. Also tackled the house down, 11 from 13 from him. Didn't concede any penalties. He's got an offload in there as well. So, yeah, not a bad shift from the Italian number 8. Honourable mentions, because I've certainly left out a few. I feel like I did the dirty a bit on Alex Mitchell, because he was pretty good. Controlled the game well for England in that game. Likewise, Freeman on the right wing was right up there, had a phenomenal game for England. Slightholm bagged a couple of tries. John van der Merwe busted a bunch of tackles. Ramos was great at the back for the French. Got that great intercept as well, which set up the Pinot try. Keenan was also pretty safe at the back for the Irish and looked elusive on the ball carry early. Menoncello, if you're looking at Italian players, was also, again, still dangerous. Even when Italy don't play well, he still looks pretty good. And, Finn Smith at number 10, just, speaking of guys who'll be on the radar for the Lions tour, I don't know, man, he's looking pretty solid. Just a solid player. Kicked his goals, made most of his tackles, distributed well. So, yeah, solid and consistent is, I feel like that's an Andy Farrell kind of gold star, maybe more than the X Factor stuff that you see from some of the other 10s, but hey, we'll kind of have to wait and see. Lucy's, there were so many good ones this week. Giroud, wherever he was playing for France, was great from the bench. Faletau, probably done the dirty on him a couple of weeks in a row now. He was phenomenal on the carry for the Welsh. Tom Curry was great, scored a try, got an assist. Francois Clos for the French made a heap of tackles, got himself carded, but still made a heap of tackles. Doris was big on the carry for the Irish as well. Jenkins was the top tackler of the week for Wales. I think he had 28 tackles out of 30, which is a huge shift. Schoeman for the Scots also, tackled well, won a turnover, but that's the 15. Plus some honourable mentions. We could keep it going, but we won't. You guys let us know your thoughts on the team of the week. We await one more round of Six Nations action, which will decide who wins it all. If you like the team of the week or you made it this far through the vid, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I would appreciate it. I'm off to have a nap because she's been a busy morning with some rugby. But you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.